Hello again and welcome to Forum for a Better Understanding. Sometimes we have a program that is so good that we actually keep the people in the studio an extra week. And then what we try to do is have them say different things around that topic because we covered it, but not enough. And in the idea of dialogue, the idea of being in touch with the depths of our relationships with people, we'll never plummet that in a week, trust me. We won't even finish it today. We may come close, but we will not. But we're glad to have back two guests who were here last week, all the way from San Mateo. That would be Dr. Len Traubman, a retired pediatric dentist who, with his wife Libby, a retired social worker, have developed a whole lifetime now involving things much grander than what would have been just making a career. They are now engaging thousands of people across the country in a wonderful process that we're going to show today. And across from me is a very good friend, Karen Crozier, a Reverend Doctor Professor at Fresno Pacific University, someone who is here in Fresno, as Michael was last week, able to share with us her own connection to what the experience that the Traubmans shared with us at Fresno when they were in Fresno on October 1st, but also how her own experience in this area of dialogue and being honest and being in true communication is also a skill that we all can learn and do better week by week, we hope, month by month, year by year. So being back again, I wonder if the Traubmans could tell us a little bit more about this model that they have spent years, almost 2 decades at least, perfecting, finessing, nuancing. The one you shared with us, tell us how that's evolved and why it is still so important to you.
Well, the most personally would be our 42 years of marriage, which has been the gymnasium of the spirit.
That would be it.
And that's where we validate a lot of what we learn, because this is not academic. Everything we say or do is from authentic life experience with people. One of the big insights we had was during the Cold War, when we helped start the Beyond War movement, and we could see that war with the kinds of weapons we have is obsolete. We actually went to the Soviet Union in 1984, and when we met the Soviets, we found that they were fabulous people, and that this had been nuts to be taught that in our lifetimes it would be impossible to relate to them. So as in the Beyond War movement, and as we helped bring Soviets and Americans together, hear each other's narratives, traveled, and at the end of that time, so both Palestinian and Israeli citizen leaders and Armenians and Azerbaijanis, both asked us to bring them to California to help them build their relationships. And we worked with both populations of people. But the roots of our work, actually the model of this living room dialogue, is from South Africa and from Israel. And during the years of apartheid in South Africa, blacks and whites came together to share meals and to share stories. And they had that early insight that an enemy is one whose story we have not heard. They did that at risk to their own lives, and they helped change the fabric of life in Africa. And also Neve Shalom Wahada Salama, a village in Israel where Arabs and Jews live together, Palestinians and Jews, they are also models to us. So we tried to bring this to life in our living room where we live.
And it's been 209 meetings and counting.
Right.
And that's not counting all the experience, such as the wonderful crossing lines that you shared with us.
Yes.
What is it that keeps you, Libby, so committed to something that at a point you'd say, hey, we're pretty good, we've done this, but what made you want to come to Fresno, for example?
This whole experience has been a process. And Len described kind of the early roots, but when we first started the living room dialogue to bring Jews and Palestinians together, we didn't really truly understand what dialogue meant. I mean, it was like we wanted people to come together and make this connection, but we didn't get the power of listening to learn. It kind of started out wrestling and maybe people talking over each other, and as you can imagine, a lot of people come in with hurt feelings and anger. But it took us a while to discover the real power of listening to learn. And so the principles that grew and we deepened in the dialogue between the Palestinians and the Jews and the Israelis, we began to say, well, these are applicable in every relationship. And we began to be invited into some classrooms and onto college campuses where students have these same problems that we all have. And so that's how it's kind of evolved by word of mouth, and the website that communicates has a lot of materials on it, and people found it, and then they would call up and say, I want to start this where I live. So we've simply responded to the requests, and as a new opportunity came, we learned more, and still this whole coming to Fresno and other cities now, that's the more, and that's a growing process for us as well. So we keep learning, we keep getting re-inspired by the people and the experience that we had here in Fresno.
Now, one thing that was really inspiring to me was when you sent me the DVDs to get prepped for our conversation, our dialogue. And sure enough, we're going to see right now this one of peacemakers, Palestinians, and Israelis at camp. But why don't you lead us into the clip, and then when we come back from the clip, Karen's going to be able to share how it was at the Fresno experience, what it was that was most challenging, what it was that was most interesting. But walk us into the clip.
Well, we're going to see an 8-minute trailer of the larger DVD that's going to be available to your listeners free of charge if they request it. And it is simply in the mountains here above Fresno, near Yosemite. For 5 years, we invented and built and birthed and matured actually a camp. We transformed an 85-year-old traditional Jewish community camp into a Palestinian Jewish village where Muslim, Christian, and Jewish youth and adults came and lived together, including from 50 different towns in Palestine and Israel and across North America. So you'll see a clip of people living together and communicating as they never dreamed they could in their lives.
Greg, can you roll the clip, and then we'll come back and discuss it.
In September 2005, 140 Jews, Muslims, and Christians of all ages came to spend 3 days near Yosemite National Park. The participants of this Palestinian Jewish family peacemakers camp were from both North America and the Middle East. Their intention was to live and learn together, ease the fears and real challenges of this troubled region, and alleviate the general ignorance about each other. As a community, they exchanged life stories and explored difficult issues. Through guided exercises and play, art and culture, song and dance, the participants broke the ice and grew closer. They experienced a new quality of listening, a new depth of dialogue and communication. The campers transcended old beliefs and stereotypes. Face to face and heart to heart, they discovered common ground, demonstrating what peaceful coexistence and collaboration can and will look like, many forming deep, ongoing friendships and connections.
Resident camping is immersion. You do not go home and reactivate your old ways of thinking about things or your old feelings. You keep unfolding, you keep peeling the layers off, one experience after another. And I also believe that we say in our prayers about let's break bread together. This is the ultimate of breaking bread together. We not only break bread together, we share a bathroom and we play together and we dance together and we sleep together and we do all of these things that are natural human activities that we all share.
You just can express yourself in your own way and say whatever you have in your heart. People listen to you, and I think it's a really good chance to do this in this place.
I think it's so important that people realize that they have the power to stop the anger from going on to the next generation and not teaching their children to hate. That's the power we have, to teach them to be hopeful and to love. That's what we can do immediately.
We ate together, we danced together, we played together, we discussed, we dialogued. we loved each other, we hugged each other. I think that it can happen in Israel. So I find this camp as Israel in miniature. I would like to see Israel, Palestine in big when we go home. And this is, I think, the pledge of everybody after the Tuonga camp.
Before I joined the dialogue group, I was very angry, and I didn't have a lot of Jewish friends, and I didn't, I was very, very pro-Palestinian, very anti-Israeli. Over the last 10 years, I've really changed to a completely different place. I want the state of Israel to stay, but I want to take care of the Palestinian people as well. And I always like to say that I'm pro-Palestinian and I'm pro-Israeli. I'm both. And you can be both. You don't have to be one or the other. You can be both.
I've never spoke to a Palestinian person in person, so this is my first time. And it was very exciting. Yeah, it was really new to me, and I don't think any of my friends in Israel have ever had this experience either. First thing is to let people know what's going on, and that in order to change it and not just cry about it or whine about it, we have to do something to make it work, and we can change things.
I like to understand the other side and to listen to their story from the history until now, and to build the future for both of us. Here it's a chance for me to meet with them and to tell them about our suffering daily life with checkpoints, with the soldiers, with arrested our kids, everything like this. I think some of them will be changing, some of them, because they also the first time for them to meet Palestinians face to face and to sit with them equal people with good feelings. I am feeling very exciting because some of the people here are very warm. It's very emotional for me.
It's not that complicated. You just offer people a safe place and a lot of listening and human support. We've built this dialogue between Palestinians and Jews for 13 years now. And it's built on rock, on solid principles of listening and treating each other like equal human beings. And it's happening. The world is going to shift, and the dream of humankind is going to come true. We are going to live in cooperation.
I'm not ready to sign a treaty right now. Maybe Sunday night. but after we talk about all this. We can't just say that we're here and we listen to the other side and everything is okay, because everything is not okay. It's very complicated.
I was looking forward to the feeling of safety. I'm gonna get in this place, and I did. I made a lot of friendships, and I talked to a lot of amazing people. I was touched and inspired by many of the people here, and all of them. I admire all of them, and I admire the work they do and all the things they overcome to come here and to talk to each other and to meet the other side.
I think the mission was accomplished. But then the test now will be passing it on. And one of the positive things I heard from this weekend is there was great interest in the participants who came from Israel and Palestine. Wow, let's do this. Let's take this back home. So we have a lot to think about, having it here, taking it there. But I think the potential is great.
I believe there's hope, and I think when you see this one-on-one interaction and you see people opening up and listening, it's like a light bulb going off. People really can get along, and they're really not different like people seem to think they are. It's really exciting. Peace is step by step. It can't happen overnight. It's one person at a time, and that's what I feel this is about.
I sort of live my life on this criteria that when I'm dying and I have to look back on my life and say, did I do anything important? This weekend will be way up there in the yes column of yes, I didn't waste this life.
We hope this DVD will inspire you to create your own programs, offering the tools and confidence building to develop similar gatherings in your community.
KNXT TV is proud to say thank you to all its viewers who have given their support for over 25 years. And only through your support is KNXT able to provide spiritual and informative programming. Please remember KNXT in your long-term support through wills, bequests, trust, and plan giving. Your gift is important to the future of Catholic television. Help preserve the strength of KNXT's message based on the teachings of Christ. Keep KNXT in your future plans.
Well, welcome back to the second half of our program, which is really the fourth part of a series that we've been sharing with you on this effort at learning how to dialogue. Karen, you saw that powerful clip. You were there on October 1st. What are some of your reactions, feelings, impressions, questions, and your own input now? Your turn to share what's going on with you.
Thank you, Jim. I have numerous. I wish we had 4 weeks to be with one another, but unfortunately, this is it. So we'd like to make the most of this time together. Thank you, Len and Libby, for what you have contributed to humanity and the ways that you have invested yourself to see a different kind of world instead of accepting the one that is. So I was grateful to participate in that process on October 1st. And one of the things that I really appreciated was how it provided access for the common person, me as an academician who is engaged in classroom, in reflection, intellectual analysis, as well as trying to connect theory to practice and what that means as we live our lives in interaction with one another. We oftentimes do not necessarily have the opportunity to engage a broader spectrum of individuals. And so I thought that that was great, regardless of people's backgrounds, contexts that were present. They were able to enter into the moment and feel comfortable and ready to respond to what you had asked us to do, to engage one another in deep listening. And now, as I transition in sharing the affirmation, I have a couple of questions that I would like to engage. In the moment as I was sharing in the beginning of the process, as we were doing brief introductions, and you set it up to where we went every other person. I was the one sitting right next to you, Libby, and so I didn't know if it was going to get to me or not. And as I was listening deeply to the stories that was being shared, also processing, wow, how long will this take? Will I be overwhelmed? Is it going to come to me or not? And so, as I was the last one and had the opportunity to hear those who also shared their stories, I didn't have words. And my question, and it seemed like there was no space for me not to have words. So silence. Could silence be an expression of dialogue? And what space is there for silence in this process? Because for me, that was my voice.
Yes.
As one who comes with a greater sense of self and understanding what that means, however, you didn't know that in your first time encountering me. But yet I felt like I was sort of on the spot to share something and could not consent to the fact that I have introduced myself as Karen Crozier and I am speechless. Yes. I'm overwhelmed by the moment, and silence was the way that I was embracing the others who were in the room. So I'm interested in knowing your response to that.
I should probably respond because I'm the one who said something about being speechless.
Yeah.
And so I should apologize for making you feel like you had to say something and say that absolutely you're right. There is total room for silence. And in a real dialogue setting, when you're in a living room, we try really hard to still ourselves, not only just to give space, but for the listener to take in and think about what they've heard. So you're exactly right. Your reflection is very correct, and that is a very important part of dialogue, to give the room to just be still. Because sometimes a lot of feelings are emoted and expressed, and if somebody jumps in to then give their feelings, then you just cut it off. So you said it.
It's a paradox that stillness is important, and as you notice, when we were encouraging you to come up with what might be inside of you, there was stillness, and there was time, and we did not rush that. And a lot of people believe that they do not have a story. And I remember when Oprah started asking people their stories, she says, and a woman said that from the audience, she said, no, she said, everybody has a story. And that's our experience if we give people space and time. We all have profound stories and life experiences that then help others. And I personally felt like you had the resources within you, that you have a story, I know you do, and that if you were given space and time, I had faith that you would somehow express yourself in a way that would lift others up as well, which you did. You really lifted that room up and brought in so much. So it's a paradox. Yes, we have to express when people want to pass. Absolutely. And the other part is everybody has a story, and we have to encourage them to discover it because it makes them and everybody around them more human.
Karen, when you did share with Deborah, you had a very animated conversation, and the pictures did show how many powerful conversations and dialogues were going on. People were really focused on their partner. And I know that you had a chance, and some people decided to share back something of what they shared. Did you want to give us a nutshell version of the experience of being with another colleague, another person, and having this one-on-one? How was that?
Excuse me. Well, Deborah came as someone who comes from different disciplines and backgrounds of life concerning law, as well as working with corporate America and business, and Common Cause is a particular organization I believe that she has launched at this time. And so I was able to hear one who has engaged deeply with private corporations and business owners to understand the non-shadow side of that reality, which has been very difficult for me to experience coming from an African American culture context in which businesses are oftentimes doesn't exist as in 93706 area code in Southwest Fresno, or we just taken numerous years just to get a Food Max shopping store change in the neighborhood, and therefore where are the businesses, and are they trying to continue to exploit our communities without being authentic partners to our communities? So Deborah's experience and background allowed me the opportunity, the window to see a different side of that reality that I had not had personal experience or encounter with.
Besides your personal sharing, I wonder if you had anything that you sort of sensed or picked up from all the retelling of the conversations, dialogues people had. That was another part of the evening, was also being enriched by what went on that you weren't privy to. How was that for you, hearing people come back with their sharings?
Wow, one side of me says, is there oversimplification of saying we are the same in that brief encounter? And I appreciate the comment that was on the clipping today of the young lady sharing about how she is glad for the progress, but she's not ready to write a treaty at this time because it's a very complex issue. And so we cannot romanticize the moment, although we can appreciate the ways it has challenged us to go deeper into a place that we had not been prior to that moment, and being surprised about what that opportunity and venue and context affords us as human beings in relationship to one another. So that was one level of oversimplification of the similarities, while at the same time it was great to see a sense of connection taking place across nations, languages, ages, race, ethnicity, and so people were open to what that meant for them, and they took it. They took it.
They really did.
I'd like to just add and say, yes, that's a paradox too, about we are all the same and yet we're not. And so there's a beauty in understanding both and that as human beings, there are certain things that we all need to survive and to feel that we have a meaningful life. and that we wish those things. But on the other hand, we come from incredible backgrounds. So I think that's, when you say it's both and, I think that's what a lot of the students pick up, is that their classmates want the same thing they do, but yet they have a lot of different stories to tell.
We're in our last minute and a half, unfortunately. Maybe we could post the contact information, and maybe, Len, you may want to tell us what'll happen if they contact over the DVDs.
The full DVD of dialogue at Washington High and Peacemakers, Palestinians and Jews Together at Camp, is free to any of the listeners, anyone in the world, by just phoning or sending us an email, finding us on the web, by Googling Jewish-Palestinian Progress. Also, we have Facilitator's Guide, how-to materials for teachers to help this happen in the classrooms, in the communities, in mosques, temples, churches, living rooms, anywhere in the community for Fresno or anybody in the world. We'll be there for you.
I just want to thank our panel today and from last week also. Len and Libby Traubman came from San Mateo. Karen Crozier came from Fresno Pacific University. Michael Allen came from having lived now in Fresno for a year and getting very involved in this type of social action, communication, dialogue, motivation, and animation of people. Want to thank you for what you left with us. Want to invite all of our viewers to be here next week for another forum, but to be in touch with us over this program in particular, call us anytime, 559-488-7440. For more information, if you didn't catch the information that was posted earlier, we will be glad to give you information about this type of dialogue and how you can bring it to your local parish, church, synagogue, or mosque. Till next week, God bless.